So, what we're going to be talking about tonight is start talking about this layout that you see here. That is, I would say, I guess, is my dream layout. I grew up out on the East Coast and I frequented New Jersey Transit and Amtrak. And so I'm looking to model the Northeast Corridor, but there's more to it. I'm also looking to um, um, progress with the NMRI, that's the National Model Railroad Association's achievement program. And I can get almost every certificate I need by building a layout. And so my intention is to share with everybody the achievement program itself, and my journey on it and my journey on this layout. And so right now, what you see in front of you is a layout, an initial layout diagram based on the space that I currently have, which is about 9 foot by 11 foot area. I'm sorry, 9 foot by 12 foot area. So I designed this to be basically 8 foot along the short wall and 10 foot along the long wall, and using modules. The hope is that I'll be able to move at some point into um, a home. I'm currently in a townhome and have a larger space. But without that, I've got a plan for the constraints I have. What'll be nice moving to a larger place is a lot of the Northeast Corridor is just straight 4-track line. And so I can expand using that and just building modules of straight 4 tracks. Right now, it has to have some curves to it. And I'm kind of concerned about that because the curves are going to be very tight with 4 tracks. And this is in HO scale. And I see that Scott Rails has joined us. If you can let me know if that you can hear me, I appreciate it. Like I said earlier, I'm trying a new mic, or a different mic, not a new mic, for this broadcast. But these modules are designed to be 2 foot by 4 foot modules, enough for the trackage and some buildings in front or behind the trackage area. And I'll show you in a little bit. I'll show you the line that is the line that I'm going to model, and that's from Trenton, New Jersey, to Penn Station in New York. And what I expect to get just a few stations out of that, just kind of compressing for space. I'm going to have some main features for the achievement program, but essentially it's going to be 4 tracks until you get towards New York City where Penn Station is, and it's going to drop down to 2 tracks and a tunnel. So I'm hoping to be able to model that as well, and then come out past Penn Station into what's called Sunnyside Yard, where there's a turnaround and storage tracks, which will cover another part of the achievement program as far as features that you need to have. So this is the overall plan. I already know, just by measuring the curves that are needed, that I'm not going to be able to put Sunnyside Yard on one module. So that's already not going to work. And so I'm going to have to find something else to do to kind of have that that run around to turn the trains around to go back south. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up a map to show you the area that I'm modeling. And so this is central and northern New Jersey, where most of the tracks are. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you basically the line that is um, this is the line that goes from Philadelphia to New York City. And down here, it goes past Philadelphia and it goes all the way down to Washington, D.C. And it goes past New York City and goes all the way up to Boston. But I'm just trying to model this line because that's the line I know. And Scott is asking what radius curves. I've just started researching that. Uh, I've heard all kinds of ideas from people. From it'll be too tight unless you start at 28-inch curves. I've heard that you can get as tight as you can get very tight at 18 and move out from there. So I'm gonna have to experiment and see um, what will work to get around those corners. When I was using AnyRail 6 to start to design this, and ran into the problem with the curves and figuring those out. And so it's going to take a lot more design. But if anybody else has any ideas, maybe we can narrow it down. I have been looking at the NMRA regulations around curves. It's a little confusing, but hoping that I can figure that out and have trains actually run. I would hate to have like the tighter inner line not run just because I couldn't get the curve. So I need to figure something out. And so I hope anyone in the community that can help with that would be fantastic. But again, there are a number of stations along this route, but I figured if I get to at least the three main stations. So the three main stations are the one I grew up with, which is New Brunswick Station in New Brunswick, New Jersey, which is up kind of right in uh, this area here, and we'll take a look at that too. But it's kind of right around there. Trenton Station, which will be down here just before Philadelphia, and then again, as I said, Penn Station. So that is the hope that I can do that and then earn the certificates along the way. So what I did want to share with folks some more information about the certificates and what I'm not going to go deep into what's required. I'm not going to get into there's lots of conversations amongst NMRA members about the certificates in the program and things like that. Why I'm using this program, it's to get better. Because you have requirements, you have to build them. And if you have to build them and get them right, then, I'm going to be better for it. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. So on the NMRA website, you don't have to be a member to see this. On the NMRA website, under education here in the middle, you click on achievement program, and it's going to give you everything you need from an introduction. What is a master model railroader? How to get started? What's required? What are the categories? And so I'm going to go to the categories real quick here. And so with the categories, there are 11, and you need to gain a certificate in 7 of the categories to become a master model railroader. And if you're an overachiever, and there are quite a few out there, they'll go for all 11. I don't know if I'll do that, but we'll see. So starting at the top here, master builder, there are some requirements around building motive power. So your engines and cars, so your rolling stock. Interestingly enough, the one car that you hear the most, I wouldn't say complaints, but people get antsy about the requirement that you need a passenger or passenger related car. Ironically, most of my cars for this build were going to be passenger cars, and I'm going to have to build additional cars that are freight related in order to get the car certificate. Um, and so there's a number of cars. I think it's 8 cars that you need to build, and there has to be a passenger car and then 4 other car types, and so I'll probably have 4 passenger cars built and then the other car types for that. That's the plan. Um, both of those can easily go towards basically the layout, because I got to put cars and motive power on the layout. Settings is the big one for the layout, and that is building structures. So I'll share with you that I'm actually trying to scratch build New Brunswick Station, because there's no station kit like it. And there's some requirements between super detailing or scratch building structures. So I'll be doing that. Then scenery. So scenicking the layout, making it super detailed. And then prototype models. For sure, I'll be trying to get as close to the prototype as possible for the sake of the achievement program. And so if I'm counting those and I'm actually achieving those, that's 5 certificates. So let me just come back real quick and say hi to some folks. And I see that that Schuylkill River Valley joined us, and Derail Daryl. And hello, folks, and welcome to the live stream. So next, what I'll be working on too, and this goes right back to the track piece where I'm trying to figure out the track. And let me just, there's no light on that. There's a little more light. There is model railroading civil, model railroading electrical for engineer, and chief dispatcher. I'll have to tell you, I just started operations in doing an operations retreat with the Twin Cities division of the National Model Railroad Association, and that was my introduction into operations where there's dispatching. That's a little daunting for me at this point. We'll see if we get there. But if I don't get that certificate, there are certainly others to get. And so the civil and electrical for the model railroad engineer is around the track build and having track features, certain types of turnouts. And when I talked about Sunnyside Yard and having the runaround, you have to be able to demonstrate turning your cars around. Many people use, one of the turntables is what many people use. Because of my era, I'm not going to be using a turntable, so I need that turnaround type of thing, or a Y. Some people will use. And then the last piece is service to the hobby. I'm an association volunteer because I'm a board member for the local Twin Cities division, and I've put on I'll be putting on a second event, and so I get credit for that towards association volunteer. And by the time I end my time on the board next year, I'll be halfway there on that certificate. And the other one I'm trying to earn is model railroad author. Some of my model railroading videos will count towards that, chiefly the Golden Spike videos that I've done. And that's one of the introductory awards associated with the AP program. And you can check those out on my channel, including my actual entry that got me the Golden Spike Award. So I'm also working on an article right now to add to that. So I'll be going for the Model Railroad Author Certificate as well. So that's my journey. If anybody's interested, it's nmra.org. You come over to education, come down to achievement program, and you can see what's here. And the biggest advice is not to overthink all the categories and all the things you need to do. many of you have been building for years and are going to have what you need for some of these certificates. So it's not as daunting as some people think it is once you get into understanding the certificates and what's the requirements and the paperwork that needs to be submitted for it. So I encourage anybody who hasn't joined the NMRA to do so. Their education program is very good, and this achievement program is one of the best out there to motivate people to build. And so I definitely encourage you to check it out. Even if you don't join, check it out and build along to it. You can become a master model railroader without the designation, and some of you already are, like I said. So that's my little spiel. All right. I'm checking in on the chat again. I see Rail Artist has joined us. Hey, Rail Artist, it's awesome to have you here. Hopefully someday you can come back to the Twin Cities and join us for some of our activities, and hopefully we can get you to present some of your work at a clinic for us, even if it's virtual. I would certainly appreciate it, and I know all of our members would appreciate it. So right. So just going into a bit of like, why am I doing this? And as I said, I grew up, I was born in 72, and I grew up in the 80s and 90s, taking New Jersey Transit to New York City to watch Rangers and Knicks games, and to visit a bunch of friends from New York City that I used to go visit. And I was very lucky. My parents very often took my brother and I to New York City and to do some of the cultural things and to learn, like Broadway shows and museums and things like that. I think I'm probably a little more well-rounded because of that, and I love New York City. I'll tell you, I'm a little jealous. Well, brothers are brothers, you get jealous of them, but my brother was actually born in New York City when my parents lived there for a short time, and then they moved to New Jersey and I was born. So a little bitter about that, but eventually, maybe in 30 years, I'll get over that. And so that's my motivation, my inspiration, and I actually didn't learn and get to know freight cars and freight traffic and just freight railroading as much until I moved out to the Twin Cities. My wife is from South Dakota, and we moved out this way, and I started to see BNSF traffic. We used to go travel to her family in South Dakota, and we used to chase BNSF trains out there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so I'm still getting to know more about that. But and there's a little tiny bit of freight on the Northeast Corridor. Not much that we would see, and if I remember correctly, it was more south of where I was. But it was it was there, but it wasn't on my mind. So I've been, I thought, why not do the hardest thing possible by not being in the Midwest and not having any modern really railroad traffic and history and things like that. There's really not much from a modeling perspective out here. So I thought, why not take the hard road? It seems to be what I like to do. So so that's where it comes from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the train station that I'm trying to build. And boy, did I bite off more than I could chew. I did not know what I was getting into. So this is New Brunswick Station in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And on the surface, it's like, oh, it's four walls and a roof awning, some intricate windows at the top. But when you sit here and stare at this for, I don't know if I've been staring at it for 4 or 5 years now, definitely all through COVID. I've been staring at this thing, and I've been staring at Google Earth, and it just you just find more and more and more and more stuff to model. So there's a couple of things I want to point out. First of all, um, it's a 4-track main line here. It's electrified, so I'm going to have to model the catenary up here as well. We'll kind of take a peek at that. And at my back in my time, they didn't. This in the elevator. They didn't have this. They didn't have all. There's machines around for your tickets. You actually had to go talk to somebody back then. But there was this building right here behind the tracks. The retail that was there was a Tower Records, and so I'm hoping to model that on that side, some version of it, so that you can see it at least. And I remember I used to go in there for um, I don't want to say it, but I used to go in there for tapes, not CDs, tapes, and those long plastic things that you swung around, and just on the end of it was the tape. They had lines and lines of those, and so I remember going in there, waiting for the train and things like that. The northbound side going to New York is the closest to the train station. The southbound side is on the opposite side of the tracks. The station platforms are extremely long. So let me get out of this. I apologize. This changed up on me a little bit, but here is a look at here's the station. It's kind of right at the end of the platforms. The platforms kind of end over here, and there's a shelter over on this side, and they go pretty long here, all the way to the end here to this road over here. I won't have room to model that, so I'm going to have to model some version of that and just kind of constrain it a little bit. So, but once again, here you can see that, and then I'm going to try and show you. I have a top-down camera right now, but I'm going to try and show you what I've done so far. Actually, let me before I do that, I want to show you this. So I was trying to figure out how to build this, and so I had some brains, and I went to look for um, uh, I went to look for historical stuff, and I found that it's on the National Archive of Historic Places. So it's given me just an absolute wealth of knowledge about it, about measurements and everything I could ever want. And but the one thing it did not give me is heights, and it gave me measures of the length of the building, the width of the building, the shelters, the platform. It's really, really detailed in that sense, but it wouldn't give me heights. So I was struggling to find heights, and I was staring at this, and I needed to know where to put like the track level. I also needed to know what was going to be a story here, because this is actually it's actually sloped. So let's see if I can see it. If we can see it here, this area here is lower than this area here, and then it must have been how they engineered it. You can see it's sort of flat and then goes upward into the New Brunswick. There is as you go north here, there's water. There's the Raritan River that this goes over, and it just continues on like this as a bridge and goes over the Raritan River. So I'm sitting here struggling, and so this for about 2 years I'm trying to find heights, and I get all kinds of from everybody out there. I get all kinds of help, and they're like, the best way if you don't know the heights is to pick a door. It should be about 7 feet, measure that against the rest of the building. And I was trying to do that and everything, and I swear I'm just staring at this, just trying to figure it out. And um, uh, I don't know if anybody else has picked up on it. If you picked up on it already, you're way better than me. For 2 years, I've stared at this. And then if you look right there, there's a clearance sign for this bridge, for traffic under this bridge. So this is 3 lanes, 2 coming towards us, 1 going away. So this is probably at the outside of the outside lanes, is probably where the 12 feet is. 2 years I stared at this and missed that sign. So kudos to anybody that got that right away. Okay. So let's go ahead and come back out of this. I'm going to stop sharing. So just to kind of show you, and I'm going to see if I can get it up close. This is what I'm dealing with. It's showing the, everything that's in there. It's showing where the canopy goes out to. And there's all kinds, you can see there's all kinds of measurements and everything. So I have everything I needed and had everything I needed until I was looking for the height. So I did get started trying to scratch build this against my better judgment. Well, I didn't have any judgment at the time. So let's go ahead and I apologize. I don't have a zoom on this this setup that I have right now. So I'm going to try and show this to you. So this was the first build. I actually initially just took styrene that was made into the brick. And then eventually I put in, I think this was 020 styrene on the back end. It's still pretty flimsy. I then tried to eye and cut out the windows, and I look for Tichy windows that looked as close as possible to the windows that were being used. And you can see here I'm trying to cut out the entranceway and all the weird windows that they have there. And I'm telling you, it's not a fun way to do it. I wish somebody else would do that and type of thing, but that's part of it. You can see here, I was trying to get some of the above the awning part. There's some decorative pieces there, so you can see I was practicing putting those on. And I don't know if I'm going to get this in. This is really close. Let's see if I can lift this up here. There. Okay. So I don't know if you remember seeing when we looked at the station, underneath the windows had this kind of set in decorative brickwork that matched all the other brickwork. And of course, it was easier for them. They just cut it out of their mold. And here you can see me making a mess of it, trying to come up with how that's going to look. And then also on the ends, I don't know if you saw that, but they also have these decorative pieces that were long, short throughout throughout the corners of the build. And so I was practicing those and trying to do those. So this was the very first one that I did. And, if you know me, I always say, just jump in, I do a build, and then I move on and try something new. And I knew that I couldn't do that with this. I knew that I was going to have to um, keep trying to build it and build it better. So this is attempt number 2, where I didn't get to the details, but you can see here I changed up, how that is going to look, because this is all supposed to be a window. And I was actually trying to cut windows together. That's impossible because the windows are so thin. But I went through cutting out the windows again. Um, as you can see on the inside, for one, I think I used 040 styrene, much thicker, much more sturdy, and I actually braced it. And I did that with the design because there's the station platform comes off the second floor, so I did that so that I can put a floor down on here. So we'll see if you can see in there. So the floor would sit in there, and then this side is where the station platform is going to go. What's unique about, I don't know if it's unique about all stations, but to me it was unique, is the floor is not even with the platform. The platform looks to be about 5 feet, and you actually they have a ramp that goes up, but you have 5 steps that you have to go up when you come out of the waiting room, up to the platform. And you can kind of and so I'm going to have to work on that, so I didn't even touch that. This was just to try and get the practice and get the structure kind of right. And so we have that. Let's go back to Google Earth. So I'm going to attempt to show you a little bit more here if I can move this along. So the track is down low here, where probably lower than the stone here. That I believe is about 5 feet, which is all the concrete you can see. And so you can see kind of the structure coming off of the station. And you can, should be about where the floor is. And so you have to come up and out of there. And so that's a whole nother part of the build that I haven't even come close to. So there's a lot of stuff I haven't come close to yet. I have to kind of get myself back into it. So, okay. And so, like I said, way more than I could chew on that one. But through this program, I hope to certainly be like way better at this, and at some point make it look a little like it. It makes that it looks a little like it. So. Okay. All right, and so I wanted to cover at least the introduction to the layout. And I might as well actually, and this got moved, of course. What I wanted to share. So those windows, I was like, how am I gonna cut these windows out? And didn't know where to go. Talked to some people, and most of the older model railroaders recommended a thing called a nipper, which is this piece. And you can see at the top, what it does is it cuts right in that little, where'd it go? Right in that little divot there. You close them together, and it cuts down on that styrene. You would think it makes it easier to do it. It doesn't, because it's another skill you have to learn to get it straight and even. There are lots of gaps when you put the windows in. Lots of gaps, lots of light that can come through. I would say that it's a decent tool to use, but you got to practice it. And there's lots of little shavings of styrene all over the place. But if you are trying to do windows, um, uh, it was not cheap, but it was worth it because I'm horrible at cutting styrene with a knife. And so if you're like me, or if you just want a tool that can help you, the nippers definitely can help you. The other tip that I have is for sanding the windows and doors. This is just from a 20 pack of these from the beauty section in Target for like 250. Probably not 250 now. A couple of years ago when I bought them, 250. They're really thin, and it's like thin cardboard almost, but they have a kind of a thicker grade and a thinner grade of the sandpaper. And so what the bonus to this is you can cut these, so you can get them to tight spaces, and this is great for end scalers because excuse me, these just barely fit into some of these windows with their width here, right? By cutting them down, I mean, I cut these are a little thin, but by cutting them down, you can now move it around and manipulate it how you need to. And in end scale, it's going to be even smaller. And so if you're looking for a way to sand small windows and door frames and things like that to get them as even as possible, they shouldn't be too expensive. And you can even go to the dollar store, like Dollar Tree, for $1.25. They have 4 of them. I picked up a few as well, but I at the time couldn't beat 20 of these for $2.50. So another tip on that as well. So that's where I'm at with the build. Is I just have the start of I certainly of the New Brunswick station. I've started that, but that's been kind of sitting. And then I have the paperwork for this. I bought. Let me show you what I've done. So for the bridge part of it, certainly had to come up with something, and I wanted to come up with something light. So I had some materials, I didn't have others. So I went and got wood at the local hobby shop, and this would be the base, and it's a sheet of basswood. It's super thin. It's 1/8 on there, and that will serve as where we put the track and ballast and everything else. But we also had to come up with a way to do the bridge, because a bridge is one of the structures that you need to do. So part of doing this part of the station, to get that bridge piece in, I cut that basswood to do that. And so you can see this is why I needed heights. And so I made the cuts for that and did a lot of sanding. You can see me on this one kind of doing all kinds of measurements, trying to figure out the measurements on this. But I approximated this to be at 15 feet and this to be at about 18 feet for the height, and built those. But then it was going to be, how do I do all of that fancy rock work right on the bridge? And I'll bring that back up for you so you can see what I'm referring to. So all this fancy rock work, what do we, how do we handle that? And these up and down rocks, these rocks are not all of the same size. They're kind of big, small, big, small, big, small, and then you have kind of a lip here. So I had some got some insulation foam, and I cut it. I cut it like I did the wood and tried to match it up as best as possible. And then I started scribing. So here, Here you can see I'm trying to match. Let's see if you can see this. Trying to match these over here in the corner, on the sides, and then the rock, and then going upwards along here before we even get started. So it's going to be a lot of scribing because the bridge piece is going to be likely longer. Going, this is just 2 feet, and even the track section probably should be about 3 feet. So we're going to see um, how that works out. So rail artist Dave Hamilton is your man for the sorry, for TLR for the region. It's why I blank on names so easy. It's John Hotvet is the man to talk to, and he's the region chair for the achievement program for the Twin Cities division. It's Dave Hamilton, and we have. I'm probably going to get them wrong, so I hope they're not in here with us today. But our newest MMR is Rich Ramirez. And Tom Gager is an MMR in the group. Of course, Dave Hamilton is too. I feel like I know there's a couple that are close that are on their way to becoming MMRs too. But for the region, it's John Hotfield. So. Right. And just checking the chat, see if there are I see that my one and only moderator, Gopher Girl, is asking if anybody has heard of Hub City. So I'm curious too if anybody has heard of Hub City. I will say that's a very actual general term, because I know which Hub City she's thinking of. But there are a lot of hub cities out there, all referring to to railroading, not model railroading, but referring to railroading. But let us know if anybody knows the hub city that she's referring to. And I will tell you, it's one of the smartest cities in the world who put their main station, I think it was, how many feet was it off from where it was supposed to be when they measured it? Gopher Girl, anything? I think I don't remember if it was 20 feet off, but it was off. Somehow they messed it up. I don't know if anybody's going to get it. Gopher Girl, do you want to share what city that is? And while she's thinking about that, if she's probably watching the Timberwolves game in the background, but I'm gonna save for next time that I go live. I'm gonna save one other tool. I'd call it a tool, but one other resource that I got when I was visiting back in New Jersey. It was the Burlington County Model Railroad Club, had a little store in their front, and they had something. They had a manual that's going to be very helpful for track work. Oh, and there it is, Aberdeen, South Dakota. That's Gopher Girl's hometown. And they literally couldn't put the station where they measured it should be. but it's one of the Midwest hubs for railroading out west. It's kind of in the northeast corner of South Dakota, about 5 hours from the Twin Cities, a straight shot of very flat land. Uh, and it's really neat. They built they have kind of their tracks all go down one sort of lane in the city, um, and it's a few tracks wide, and they have they have some good traffic there. So and it really split the city. So they built an overpass to go over top of it, mainly for their emergency service vehicles, and it's really cool to go over that and kind of see all the way down the industrial yard there, and see the engines when they're working and stuff. I don't remember it ever being that busy when I was there, but they were operating on it, and so it's a really neat spot. Unfortunately, it's not a great rail fanning spot from up there. It's really an up and down kind of bridge. It doesn't have a flat part to it. It just goes straight up and down. So, um, but it's really neat when you're going over it, to see them, to see the engines there working. So, okay. So, um, I don't know how much progress I have. I hope I'll have some progress with something next time I go live. So I don't know if I'm going to do this weekly, or not. It's something that I hope that I can do because I really want to share with the community the hobby of model railroading. It got me through COVID, and it's really given me something to try and achieve, and it's really spoken to my artistic side. So I have a father who is very logical, wasn't very artistic, and then I have a mother who was an English teacher and is a published poet, and so there's some artistic piece there, and so this really speaks to that, and I just want to share with everybody, and as I always, you know. I always tell people, just jump in. You always hear that from me, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. That kind of getting that mantra into my mind actually got me started because I went through a period where I was at the beginning and I just couldn't make that leap and really start layout and really start to get track on the table and trains running and that sort of thing. So you'll always see and hear from me. Just jump in, and I hope that everybody does. And I really appreciate everybody who has joined tonight, and hope to see you join at later dates when I do go live again. So I want to wish everybody a happy night, and see you next time.